China is expected to create 13 million jobs in the next 3 years by investing a whopping $360 billion in clean energy. And of that 360 billion, 100 billion will be in wind, $144 billion spent in solar, and $70 billion in hydro. Now, they've been investing in alternative energies for a number of years. And last year alone, they spent something like $130 billion, which resulted in, quote, a 17% increase over 2015 and a 2.5 times the amount spent in the US. So why are they doing this? I think there are two main reasons. The first is due to pollution. As you know, many of its cities have been plagued by smog, and the smog has been so bad that it actually kills thousands of people a year. And I remember there's a really interesting story last year. This one guy videotaped himself vacuuming the air, and at the end of the day, he collected all these dirty air particles, which he turned into just basically a solid brick of pollution. That's how bad the smog is there. But I think the other reason why they're doing this is, first, I guess what you could call strategic economics. China wants to dominate this market, as it's expected to kind of explode pretty quick. And the Global Mail says, quote, Beijing is pursuing a clear strategy to dominate in emerging energy technologies, just as it cornered the market on rare earth minerals, which include critical elements for batteries and other high-tech applications. Its companies are backed by Chinese development banks. 5 of the 6 largest solar panel makers are Chinese. Half of the top 10 turbine makers are based in China, with Xinjiang Goldwind Science and Technology Company overtaking Denmark's Vestas wind systems as the world's largest turbine manufacturer. So they're already kind of positioning themselves to be the biggest player in this industry. The same way they're a huge player in consumer technology. So whether you have a computer, a smartphone, a lot of those minerals are extracted from China. So for example, in your smartphone, there are tons of both chemicals and liquids that are used to manufacture those screens, to make them shiny and to make them finger friendly and all that. Those all come from China. Tesla's a good example also. A lot of the lithium ion that goes into producing these massive batteries for their cars, the vast majority of that comes from China. And so the world is very much dependent on them for products that the vast majority of the world arguably needs. And speaking of cars, Think Progress also wrote a report on this, and they quoted that China more than doubled electric car sales in 2016. And Beijing is aiming at 1,000% sales increase by 2025. Some 3 million new electric vehicles a year. And to achieve that, it's, quote, offering subsidies that can total 60% of an electric car's sticker price, Bloomberg reports. So that's exactly how you do these things. When you have a government that looks out to where the future is taking us, and it positions itself by investing in the technologies that are going to power the world tomorrow, and not just energy. In this case, electric vehicles, which could theoretically be sold to people. However, another reason why China is very much interested in being the leader of, I guess, the clean energy and related products industry is because of the fossil fuel industry as well. Quote, the fossil fuel industry simply has no sustainable growth model. Advanced batteries could, quote, tip the oil market from growth to contraction earlier than anticipated. Credit rating agency Fitch concluded last year. Bloomberg New Energy Finance told investors to expect, quote, a big crash in oil by 2028 or as early as 2023. So right now we're kind of experiencing really low oil prices, and oil dependent countries like Canada, Russia, and Saudi Arabia are very much feeling the pain. And so with alternative fuels, you don't have that. Since wind and solar, geothermal and all that, it can be produced by itself. There's never going to be like a wind energy crisis. There's never going to be anything like that, because it's basically a machine that either collects power from the sun or power from the air with a spinning windmill. So that's a real part of it as well. And also, what I found the most interesting is that the industry could soon be worth $50 trillion, which is insane. And another really important point is, quote, the only major source of high wage employment in coming decades. That's a big one. So if you look at right now, wages have kind of stayed flat over the past 30 years or so. Jobs right now are very scarce. And according to the most recent economic reports, there aren't really many industries that are doing exceptionally well. Now, if you work in tech and you work as a software engineer, that's generally a pretty good job. But wages, it doesn't look like those wages are experienced to spike at any time soon. However, in this case, as the world slowly transitions into alternative energy, this could be the one energy that provides a lot of opportunity for a lot of people. So in light of the large amount of prospective jobs that could very well be created in this industry and are being created, according to China's doing it, why aren't Canada and the US investing in the future? In fact, the Global Mail reports that we have absolutely no plan. And they say, quote, countries such as Canada and the US need a clear and aggressive strategy in the battle for the manufacturing and services business that support renewable energy, which is now outpacing fossil fuel investments in the power sector, says a report from Australia's Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis. So, I mean, the price of oil is super low. We could experience an even bigger crash in the next few years. So wouldn't that be enough reason to invest in solar, wind, geothermal? Canada in many cases has the climate for that. Why aren't they doing that? Well, it's obvious, because the fossil fuel industry has a huge lobby in North America. It doesn't want to lose both its subsidies, which it gets from the governments of both Canada and the US, and they probably think it's more costly for them to transition into clean energy than it would be to just prolong that transition. However, as we noted, by China's influence in these markets, that's a huge strategic loss for North America. And fast forward 20 years from now, do we really want to look back on ourselves and think, wow, we had all the information that told us this energy was going to explode in prosperity, and we had all this information that told us our current form of energy, oil, coal, and other fossil fuels, could very well experience further price drops and thus hurt our economies further? And in light of all that, we just did nothing? Is that what our legacy is going to be? It seems poised for that. Like, I understand why the US is going in that direction. Corporate America has a tremendous amount of influence on politicians. Canada, there is that influence, but to a lesser degree. And our rationale for a large amount of policy decision making is like, well, if the US is doing something, maybe we should do that too. Sometimes that makes sense, but in this case, the United States, under the leadership of Trump, they decided to not be a big player in the energy powering tomorrow and giving the country who leads that industry basically a large amount of influence in the world. So since the US is deciding to go down that pretty consequential path negatively, Canada decides it's going to do that too. Seems pretty silly to me and irresponsible. I can't think of another time in history where a world power willingly let one of its biggest competitors just take a giant leap forward while doing nothing. When the space race went on and Russia launched satellites and humans into space, did the US just sit there and let them do that? No. They tried to get to the moon. They tried to do something even bigger. While this isn't exactly the same, it's the energy that's powering tomorrow. And America, being the superpower of the world, and Canada, being, I guess, like, call it middle power, it's not even, shows no interest in being involved in that. To me, that shows me that North America is short-sighted. It looks at where the future is going and thinks to itself, that's really dangerous. I'm going to end this one with a quote which I'm going to kind of customize for my own purpose. So while Canada and the US might extend a short-term lifeline to the dirty fuels of the past, millions and millions of the jobs of the future will apparently be captured by more forward-looking countries like China. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you have any insightful comments that you'd like to make, I highly encourage you to leave one down below or send a response video. Or if you have another really good article that you think greatly contributes to this discussion, please, I'd really like to hear it. You can write a comment below or find me on Twitter as well, @Crocoras. But that's it for today. Thank you very much.